Okay, it's a little Weckl idea I've been working on. It's kind of a melodic solo. It's a little different than it's different than what I've been working on, but I came up with it because of what I was working on. So he talks about soloing very melodically and uh, flowing and different melodies in your head and everything, and I like that a lot. But going through all that and doing all that, I came up with this. It's more of I think of it, when I hear it more of a Simon Phillips kind of solo, which is very unlike how I play. But I came up with it because of what I was working on. So that happens a lot, I think. You come up with ideas, um, you weren't intending for that to happen. You're working on one thing and something else happens. So that's why it's important to practice, because you come up with ideas, you come up with things that you never had any intention to. And this was sort of that thing. Um, so I'm going to mess around with it a little. No editing. I'm not sure what I'll come up with, but I've been working on some different ideas. But basically, it's in 7, and then there's some parts in 5, and that's just the way it's phrased. It's really easy phrasing. It's not like crazy phrasing. Pretty easy to hear, and it's just kind of goes back and forth. We'll give it a go. And it's kind of got I kind of wanted that John Bonham when the levee breaks kind of tone. Big, lot of echo. So that's kind of what I came up with for it. outside of the 2 stick drops, you get the idea. So the theme was kind of going throughout, and kind of trying some different things with some rhythms, building with the bass drum, toms, obviously. The 5-part, and the 7s and the 5s are really easy. It's just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, super basic. So it's just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And the other thing, and then the 5s are 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The other thing that's kind of important in this Weckl mindset is to not have any idea what you're going to play. The idea is to work on the patterns, come up with this melody, and not rehearse it so that it's a piece of music written out. And that's why I think he sounds so much different than everyone else. Well, not everybody else, but there are other people like Vinny and Joel Rosenblatt and Cliff Almond and guys like that kind of sound like Weckl. And they probably have similar concepts. But I think because of his concept of not just playing riffs, he has this flow and this feel that for me is just what you're trying to really attain. So the concept of working out a melodic phrase and then working out patterns that go along with it, whatever it may be, and then I reversed it. But the idea is the same. And again, in my head, I'm just thinking, dun 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 da 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 da. So then I'll start going, and then a little improv in between. Of going real loud and then bringing it down soft. That's probably my favorite part. I can't seem to hold on to this. I'm lucky I got a lot of sticks. My snare is moving. That'll help. That's like my favorite part. The dynamics are always my favorite part of things. The little nuance, the little bell, the cymbal, the accents at the end. So that's what makes it musical, really. So the number one thing to take away from this is if you have an electronic drum set, make sure your snare doesn't move out of the way so you don't lose your sticks all the time. That would be probably the first thing. Although, I've had my snare move even with a regular snare on it. Or actually, my snare probably didn't move. My bass drum moved forward, and I have to pull it forward. But so anyway, there's all that stuff. And then all I did was double the notes, right? When I was going, I started doubling them. Which kind of adds an interesting thing. And then at the end, I have to resolve it, so I do a single and then a bass drum. Right? Yeah. Let's see. There was another thing. I don't think I did it. I reversed that. What did I do? I did some kind of reverse thing. I don't remember. But that's the point. So it's total improv. If I did it again, it would be different. It just would, because I'm not trying to think about riffs. I'm trying to think about melody and spontaneity at the moment. Of course, you have to have developed a certain amount of facility to play different things that you want to play in your head. So I'm not saying I never worked on these ideas before. Obviously I did. That's how I came up with the concept of, okay, I'm going to take this melody and then so I'm going to take that melody and move it around. I didn't do much with the cymbals, but you could have went like could have done. I might, maybe the next time I do it, I'll do that. So the more you mess with it, the more ideas you come up with. So there were definitely some things. I have a double bass thing that I worked on that I thought, oh, that might work. But again, you want it to be sort of flow of consciousness and just sort of, oh, I'll just play this because that's what I'm feeling. Sometimes it's more subtle, and I certainly don't feel like doing double bass in there. And other times it's a little rocky. I have a feeling if I was to do those big cymbal hits, I probably would have had the feeling to put the double bass underneath it. But I just never came in me to do that part. So anyway, you work on these ideas, but that's one flow idea is just, and I'm going to switch it up a little now, and I'm going to talk about 16th notes around the drums. Same thing, Big Joe Soretti's working on this right now. And it's just taking 16th notes and doing a melody with your right hand. This is how that came about, but it's not in 7, it's just in 4, and it's just... kind of flowing around the drums and you're just going, you're just kind of flowing around. And the first part of it is to keep your left hand on the snare and make the 16th flow. Boom, bop, bop, do 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 dop, bop, bop. Bop, bop, da, do, da. Can't do that one yet. So you got to keep practicing. So that's the idea. Then eventually you move your left hand up and you start utilizing your left hand as part of the accent, still flowing. I've been doing that 7 so long. I'm working on that. So, and then you put the hi-hat in. flowing with the hi-hat going. You could do quarter note, which I did. You could do eighth note hi-hat. Half note splashy hi-hats. I'm just starting to work on those. But anyway, that's the idea. I didn't do any 16th notes and or triplets, or very few. And I didn't use my bass drum. And obviously that's a huge part also. Is that after you get that, then you add your bass drum in. I'll try it. I haven't done as much of it, but... cliche big time rock ending, which I hate, but everybody does it. But anyway, so you get into that, and that actually was triplet, so I was trying to stay 16th notes. But you kind of morph into things. So anyway, that's the idea. And you're just working on these melodic ideas in your head. Stuff like that. Also, we didn't do any doubles, which I started doing there. We tried not to. Which the idea is to try to keep it single stroke. So this is how this concept came about, and it's really just taking 16th notes. That's how it started, with just 16th notes and trying to play a melody with your right hand. If I don't show up to work today, perhaps I'm having a stroke. And that came out of it after going... Probably did that one time and thought, oh, I like that. Maybe I did it a bunch of times. And anyway, that came out of it, and then I started working on that and the concept, and that's how it came. But anyway, the idea is that all this stuff happens sometimes by accident. So, but the whole melodic Weckl thing, I think, is a good thing. Some people think it's a little hard, and it probably is at first, especially when you add the hi-hat. But for you guys out there that do a lot of work with the hi-hat as part of like your metronome and keep it playing while you're doing all your stuff, then this won't be that hard. And for the others that is more difficult, then it's just a independence thing to break through anyway. So that would be it. The 16th note pulse. You could put your metronome on, quarter notes, eighth notes, and just kind of play. And the quarter note really locks in the time for people while they're listening. Sometimes it's hard to define where one is or where things are, but the quarter note locks in that one, so it makes it easier for the listener while you're playing. That's another Weckl concept, is that it's fine to do all these flashy things, but sounds like mush and just like kind of garbage if you can't feel the pulse. So you need to feel the time go by. And sometimes if you don't have anything locking you in and your time is a little off, it gets a little mushy for a musical word. That's right there right under music is the term mushy. You can check that out. It's one of my favorite musical expressions. Okay, so that's it. So this is the Weckl Melodic Ideas concept video, plus the new definitions of the term mushy, which everyone should know. So there you go. Rhythmic ideas. That's for soloing. I guess that's what it is. That's the concept for today. I'll keep working on it. There's other ideas and things that you can do, but I think if you listen to some of the great players, you can kind of hear some of these ideas. There's nothing wrong with learning a lick. I don't know. I was working on a lick. Those kind of licks, but to me those licks, they sound very Mike Portnoy-ish, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they sound kind of I don't know, they sound like licks to me instead of like just a random flow of notes. I like that flow better. However, I kind of like that riff. What did I just play? You mess around with that. It's also kind of a that should be the lesson. Anyway, have fun. It's been a while. I figured I'd hit you with a good one. A lot of practice time probably right in that. But, you know the old saying, well, the first saying is make sure your snare drum is somewhere where your sticks don't fall. Because remember, we don't do editing here. And the second thing is practice, practice, practice. Where's the button?